paper magic will survive like the heat death of the universe, and will...
Oh, it's a smuggler's copter. Would you like to crew this? And then it crashes because they don't understand arithmetic.
All your cards belong to me.
2 minutes into macing him in the eyeballs, I switched to pepper spray. He's like, yeah, it's all right, refreshing. And went back to the mace.
Magic is dying. I'm done. Selling everything.
I might be a hoarder. And yes,
I don't have the crayons or glue to explain this to you right now.
What, are you gonna die twice?
Oil will be worthless before magic cards will.
well, okay, Dr. Man.
That's Mr. Dr. Professor Jason.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Brainstorm Brewery. We are all here somehow after the event that was Magic Con Minneapolis. It was a lot. We all did a lot. We all were very busy. Well, I say that. Jason, I think, maybe just around, but the rest of us had a lot going on. But everyone had a good time.
I was working. I was on the clock the whole time. What are you talking about?
That's true.
Yeah,
Jason was performing the whole time.
I had to.
I was on vacation.
Yeah.
With people. I am writing the trip off, which means I had to conduct a business meetings.
There you go.
When I went up to somebody and said, "Hey, do you want to do the podcast?" and they're like, "Yeah," or "Hey, do you want me to make sure that Dawn talks to you so I don't have to?" It was a lot of work. So don't say that I wasn't completely on the whole time, all right? That's condescending.
If the IRS asks, he was
Jason,
working.
how much Magic did you get to play? How many games?
Like 15, 20?
Okay, then.
Yeah.
I mean, that's network.
I was at 0 myself.
I got to play the Factory Sealed Garth deck a couple times.
That's
I
a win.
played,
But
like,
listen,
60
those games
matches a
weren't
cube.
just EDH. I was working. You gotta make connections with your pod. It was a very productive trip for both Brainstorm Brewery and EDH Rec, so
It was a fun event overall.
good. I did a job.
Within the first 10 minutes of the hall being open, a event photographer got some sort of picture of me hunched over a trash can, cracking open 2 CGC 7.5 Tundras with a pair of needle nose pliers. And I really hope that photo surfaces someday because
What were you breaking them apart for?
To play
there's
them.
7.5 there's 7.5 revised Tundras. Like, who gives a fuck? Like,
Yeah, I
that card,
know,
That's-
right?
that card
pretty
needs
fair.
a shuffle crease. It needs a shuffle crease.
Well, on the Pro Tour side, things were very busy, very long, but it was a pretty hype Pro Tour. Standard is a thing that people played and enjoyed. We're going to get to all of the Standard announcements in a little bit because Huey Jensen came on Sunday afternoon and announced the Standard's going to be 3 years instead of 2. That was they had the Pro Tour top 8.
It was
on the
crazy
main
that they had
stage all day
Huey-
Sunday.
That Huey
That's
Jensen
great.
just said that, and then everybody acted like that was a real announcement, and Wizards had to like, good for Huey making that happen, but it was just so strange that he came out and he was like, rotation's 3 years, and then they like dragged him off stage, but then they're like, that's actually a pretty good idea.
Yeah, actually, Aaron Forsyth got a large cane and hooked it around Huey and pulled him. We had to get 4 guys to pull because Huey's pretty big.
Like Showtime at the Apollo, just playing the piano.
They didn't catch us in the back hitting publish on the article announcing it, so they're not. They should have hired some additional security. The event, I don't know. You all can weigh in on this. The event seemed smaller to me, and I don't know if it was actually smaller in a square footage way, or they just did a better job of having everything together.
But you didn't
Right.
have to walk a mile and a half to cross the convention center.
Yeah, I think
They
that's
listened
probably-
to the feedback from Philly, I think. I don't know for sure, but it seems like they did. Where Philly felt like they wanted people to feel like Wizards had rented the entire convention center for them.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it did not pay off for vendors. It did not pay. I mean, it paid off for people's cardio, but that's about it.
Got your steps in Philly for sure.
Yeah, then you're right. This was, it's tough because on one hand, I was like, man, this really just this feels like a GP,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Well-
except it's a GP that everyone paid to get into, but it's not. I mean, there's obviously a lot more going on and a lot. It's not a GP, but it had the feel size wise of one, which is not a bad thing because everything
I
was together.
disagree. I really do think that it was spaced out in a way that made it feel smaller. It made it feel not crowded.
Yeah,
If you went over to the tournaments area, there was a GP's worth of people playing side events. If you go to the command zone, there's most of a GP's worth of people just playing commander. If you there are people there, a couple hundred people walking around the vendors. There were people in the Pro Tour room.
The free play / Pro Tour area was honestly as large as the 2,000 people GPs we used to go to.
You're probably right.
It really was deceptively. It felt smaller because they spaced it out in a way that didn't feel crowded. Which, if I had to describe Philly and maybe not Philly because of the convention center, but if I had to describe Vegas in one way, it was crowded.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
I'm pretending I went.
I mean,
shout out! I'm gonna give a shout out here to Minneapolis. That place was beautiful.
Yeah, great city, best city in America, in my humble opinion.
It might be.
I'm going back.
It's a little too humid in the summer, but like otherwise,
it was 70 degrees all weekend though.
It's the Land Lakes.
It was perfect. It was perfect in the morning. It was perfect in the evening. It's very enjoyable to walk around.
Also, underrated food city.
The only problem is everything closed early, but that's just a product of everything going on. But they've got some great.
You know what
stuff
didn't
there.
ever close? The Nicolette Diner, where a man in a bulletproof vest asked me how drunk I was, and then I was very entertained. I couldn't hear the televisions, but I could hear people's conversations, and I was like, "This place rules." Because it was just a boring diner during the day, and then after like 2
that place was lit. Yeah,
it was.
I went over there several times. Also at a similar point of the night, it was perfect.
It's like 3:38 a.m. and like
I got some
guys in the
pancakes,
bulletproof vest they brought back from Iraq were like, all right, if you want to come in here, that's fine.
I think
because I don't worry about shootings at 3:30 a.m. If you're gonna get into some shit in a diner at 3:30 a.m., you're gonna get stabbed, right? And if you get stabbed, it's by someone you knew, and you probably deserved it. So I don't think I have any enemies who are gonna stab me. So I'm pretty cool going in a real stabby diner situation. You don't really catch a stray knife all that often. Does that make sense?
There were a lot of butter knives in there, though.
If you're going to stab someone at a diner, you're bringing your own knife.
Most crimes are crimes of passion and convenience. Just saying.
If you're the kind of person who would stab somebody, you're the kind of person that would bring a knife to a conversation fight. Right?
So here's a question, though. I'm interested in this one. Jason, what was your experience actually playing 15 games of Commander? That is probably more Commander.
Oh, I didn't.
Than
you guys how many games I played? I played like some other stuff.
No, sure. What I'm saying is that's probably more games of Commander in a relatively confined period than you've done in months, right? So where were you at on the cards people played against you, the decks you played against, your overall experience with the format?
I mean, I played with my friends, so like every game was good.
Okay, well that's a cop-out answer, but okay.
Kinda, but like that's the truth. I played with some randos, and the randos sometimes they did real crazy stuff, and sometimes they did cool stuff. We played against a guy who like did nothing the whole game, and everyone was like, "Man, I feel bad attacking this guy," and he had all this mana, and then people started swinging at him. And he's like, "Batwing Broom, deflecting palm," just the funniest shit. I loved it.
That would
just sit there waiting for people to remember he's at the table, and then he just
that deck would not work in a regular play group more than once or twice.
More than once. That's what I love about the GP, where you could bust that thing out, where people could counter it easily if they knew, but if they don't know,
they just leave you alone, thinking that you're unlucky, and there is a little bit of a social contract. Meanwhile, you're actually just fog deck.
So a lot of people on Twitter and a lot of people off Twitter know me or know of the Gonti deck and the factory sealed Garth deck.
Yeah.
Those are both probably more famous than I am. I got to bring out the factory sealed Garth deck against 3 random people in a hotel lobby when I was on my way to bed.
Ooh.
And I just brought it out like it was a normal deck. They were a little confused. They asked if my cards were marked. I just stared at him until he let me continue.
What kind of a question is that?
That I swear to God, every time DJ posts that deck on Twitter, some dude's like, "Yeah, we'd never fly in my play group."
What kind of a question?
Bro, it's free not to tell on yourself.
He saw the fact that one of my cards had a zombie token instead of a magic back.
Come on, man.
So I get the question, but also
I'm just unsure if I were I guess if I were a random person in a hotel lobby who has an experience of someone pulling out a deck like that, they're obviously doing a bit. They have a thing. What kind of, like, maybe he was just prompting you. You know, he was just giving you a chance to tell the story.
Yeah, he said, "Aren't your cards marked?" And I said, "It's a real deck. It's got 38 lands or so. I'm gonna draw a hand of 7 cards, and then I'm gonna try to play Garth One Eye and make some Black Lotuses."
I think they're called Black Lotai at that point, but go on.
Are they?
I ended up
Or is
winning
it
the
Black
game.
is Lotus?
I did end up winning the game because I Lithoform engined a Mind Slaver the Promised End trigger and stole 2 people's turns at once.
More decks should play Emrakul the Promised End in Commander. That seems
More decks
like
should play a lot of colorless things that do something that like creates a sub game.
well, I mean the card's just it costs like 8 mana, and it's just a 13/13 Mind Slaver. It's absurd.
I did win a game with Helix Pinnacle, Revel in Riches, and Mechanized Production over the course of the weekend, so that felt good.
Like 3 separate games.
Yeah. Oh, obviously.
But if it's like a perfect victory here,
I put
flawless
Mechanized
victory,
Production on a treasure token, and during
got
my
all your
upkeep, I have
triggers at
10
the same time.
treasures twice. I win the next game too.
It's what's is a not Triskaidekaphobia, that's the 13. What was the card from I think Scars of Mirrodin that allowed you to go for the poison and
Oh, the cheese stands.
damage kill?
It's Decimator Web. And it's called
Yeah,
Decimator Web
Decimator
because it
Web.
counts
There's
1/10
Decimator
of
Web,
your
and then there's the Sorcery from New Phyrexia.
Crest
It's
of
like target player
Phyrexia.
draws 3, gets 3 poison, and loses 3 life or something.
Yeah.
Crest of
Nice.
Phyrexia.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah, 3 win conditions at once. So that would have been more impressive, Jason. But I guess I'm glad you won 3 games that way. How many
Well, now
farewells
I'm
were
not.
played against
Now
you?
I'm disappointed that I didn't.
How many farewells got
I
cast
told a
against
bad
you?
story. How many farewells that
Yeah.
were cast? How many resolved, do you mean? Nobody
don't know.
resolved a farewell against me.
Because your reputation preceded you, or because you told everyone rule 0, if
Or
you play
because he
farewell,
conceded
I
on the
will
stack.
flip the table. Yeah.
Or because he conceded on the stack.
Rule 0, I don't recognize the existence of farewell. You're like beating
Is that
him
card
in the Super
counterable?
Log.
Sorcery, speed, conceding. Make it normalized. Normalize conceding at sorcery speed.
I had a game where one of the 3 players, it was like me and 2 friends, and like some guy walked up and just offered to be our 4th. And one of the friends was playing a Calmax deck, and he played an Arcane Bombardment and got like multiple forks underneath it. And at some point, it was just like so obvious he was going to win. We said, well, if you get 3 GRVs in the same turn, you get disqualified from the game. And he got 3 GRVs on the same spell being cast. Because it was like, I'll cast the 7 mana card, I guess I'll copy it with Calmax, also Arcane Bombardment triggers, and so I'll fork, and then this fork will trigger another thing. Also, I forgot both my triggers. I forgot to trigger my Baral and Kari Zev. Also, I forgot to put a monkey token into play because I declined to do that. He got DQ'd from the game, and I ended up winning with Zatalpa.
I kind of like that. If you're gonna bring a CEDH deck to a casual table, you
It wasn't
you get rules
CEDH.
police super hard.
He
It's
just
just
like
complicated.
assembled Exodia.
Yeah.
I
That's
witnessed.
fun too.
This
Yeah.
was a long time ago. This was maybe 8-9 years ago. I witnessed a commander event for prizes at a GP be decided by a judge deciding that the correct interpretation of what was happening was the 4 horsemen rule, and the player was not allowed to win the game.
Oh, the 4 horsemen rule, which is like if you. What are you talking about? Because there was a thing in the
there's
4
like-
horsemen deck where they were
I'm
like,
just gonna
you
take a
have
guess
to
that Cass
actually.
has a good explanation and go to her on this one.
Okay, yeah.
So if you have an iterative loop in a game of Magic, something like, say, Basalt Monolith and Mesmeric Orb to flip a card over on your deck, and you have an Emrakul the Aeon's Torn in your deck, which would shuffle your graveyard back into your library, and you say, my plan is to get 3 Narcomoebas into play, and then a Dread Return in my graveyard, and then a Sharum the Hegemon in my graveyard, and a Blasting Station, Dread Return my Sharum, return Blasting Station, and eventually the Narcomoeba Emrakul loop will kill you. Well, the thing about the way statistics work is there is a small chance that never happens.
Mhm.
Right? It's possible you
Small
just never mill
being
over.
like 0.0000000.
It's
In,
not
in Magic,
deterministic.
in Magic, you can't tell how many iterations you're doing, and that's the problem.
I mean,
And
according to
because-
the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, there's a non-zero chance you could walk through a brick wall because none of the nuclei of the atoms in you or the wall would hit each other. But like the
Sure.
odds of that aren't very good.
Go ahead, Cass.
Because you can't say with certainty that you will do this combo, and you're not progressing the game state either by making creatures or attacking or progressing through phases, I think are the three things. The combo isn't allowed, and so the way people have fixed that in Legacy is actually just to place the DC, the Sultai one.
Root Tyrant.
Yeah, because when you mill over an Archbishop, you make a zombie. And so you can make a zombie every iteration while also looking for the other stuff. The problem with that is it's possible that while you're looking for your 3 Narc Amoebas, your Dread Return, and your CDC, you get the infraction before you can get it into play.
In this, yeah. So in this, that was an excellent explanation. So in this case, it was a player, Ulamog, I think was the card. It was an Abzan deck, doing some variation of those things, and Emrakul banned, I believe, right, in Commander even then. So I was like Ulamog or whatever. But yeah, Judge stepped in and said, "You can't do that," and just made them stop, and they had to pass the turn, and the next player won. That was for like prizes or whatever. Also, shout out, by the way, to this player, you might have heard of him, Nathan Stoyer.
Are we doing shout outs? Is that a thing?
I don't think we're shouting out Nathan Story. I think Nathan Story would have to shout us out for it to be of any value. That's like me saying, yo, shout out to, I don't know, who's super famous. So that's like me shouting out someone super famous. Like, it's nothing, right? It's like, shout out to fucking Pitbull, Mr. International, Mr. Worldwide.
Shout out to Marcel, the last guy to do a shout out on this podcast in 2016.
Can we do props and slops?
Ooh, props and slops.
Been a long time since someone's propped or slopped on this podcast, or really ever.
I really hate
Really?
that one. I hate that one.
I
just-
am
hey,
good
hey,
at coming up with slops, but I feel like you should come up with an equal number of props, and that just
Listen, pop
enough.
quiz, hotshot. 4 people in history have top 8 3 Pro Tour level events in a row.
I don't care.
Nathan Stoyer.
Not even a little.
Can anyone guess another?
Read
This bit is keeping me from having sex after this podcast. I want you to know that.
I
Oh,
thought
keep
you
going,
would be
Corbin.
good. I thought you'd have a guess, Cass. Come on.
Three Pro Tour level events in a row?
Yes. 4 people in history.
4 people? Kai's got to be one of them, right?
Nope. John is.
Finkel? Yeah, sure, okay. It's one of the two, right?
Yep.
Was Yuya one of them?
The other time it happened was in 2015. Is a player you've heard of.
Paulo?
Mm-mm. Good guess, though.
2015.
Paulo's team.
Oh, is it Ben Stark?
Mm-mm. Same team.
Who is their
The
is it
third
Matt Nass?
person on that team.
No, not like a chess team, like a Channel Fireball type team. If you.
Oh, I think you meant like the 3 people who put on a team for a team event.
Sorry,
or
no.
something. It's not redacted, is it? It's not Hatsune Miku?
No. No, it's just like a player you've heard of on the Channel Fireball team. One that
Reed?
is like a Hall of Famer. No, it's not Reed.
Luis?
Was it, what's
It is-
his name?
It is Luis.
Oh, Luis? Wow, okay.
3 Pro Tours?
Pro Tour level.
Well, Sawyer top 8'd world, like one world,
Top
right?
8'd, not 1?
Yeah, he's 1, 2, and 3. No
Cool
one's
trivia
won.
competition, Corbin. You did it.
And the 4th is Scott Johns, but you'll never get that. DJ,
Not if you
can
don't.
wake up now.
All right.
This is the problem. We need people to care about professional competitive Magic, and that is why Huey
Pop
Jensen.
quizzes aren't how you do that.
Well, okay,
Pop
that's-
quizzes are not how you get people to care about Magic. You get people to care about Magic by, like, I don't know, putting on good coverage with good commentators. You get it by, like, having real prizes. Whenever
You
WotC
get it by
coverage-
giving Cedric Phillips a microphone and making his wander around the floor talking to people about their sideboard choices.
We were talking about that before the cast, actually. He was white-knuckling his microphone the whole weekend. But here's what you really do. You don't have your coverage person say there and say, these players are playing for their share of $50,000 US. Like, that's nothing. That's dead last and then some in a league tournament.
I do agree.
I know,
do-
it's like...
I
It's
can't
like Forged
speak
in
to-
Fire. It's like if you win a 3 hours standing at a hot forge here and then 4 days doing it at home, you could win $10,000 before taxes. And it's like, yeah, damn, you could get 3 questions wrong on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and come back with more money than that. It's ridiculous.
50 grand's like 3 months rent in LA after taxes.
Look, I agree with you entirely on the premise that the prize money, while like in practice for the people qualifying, it's fine. That's $1,000 is the minimum prize. So it in general will cover the trip for pretty much everybody, right?
For Americans, yeah.
It goes a long way for most people, blah blah blah, right? It's a plane ticket, right? It's the old blue envelope plane ticket kind of thing. So that's that. But yeah, on the other aspect of it, it is tough. I think that this event went a lot better than Philly. I think there were a lot of improvements on the Pro Tour side, not just the Magic Con side. I liked the integration between the two a lot more. They had Riley on stage, on the main stage on Sunday. So they had the Pro Tour top 8 broadcast on. And then whenever the broadcast would take a break, they'd have Riley doing basically crowd work to keep everyone engaged. So if anyone's in the hall, they're like, oh shit, there's something going on the main stage. There's somebody talking. He's giving away things. I better go over there. You know?
Was he doing listicles where he just lists off the top 10 cards of a color on EDA Trick?
I can't fault anyone for listicles. They're so
No, I mean I respect the hustle
so
for sure.
good. They're just so good. It's good content. It works.
The people love it.
Yeah.
People like no one ever read Magic articles. They just scroll to the deck lists.
I do sometimes think about how when we got started, at least when Jason and I got started, Magic writing was still such a big medium that there was a really truly like competitive niche within the niche, within the niche for being able to write really emotive, deep, meaningful, life-changing articles.
I really believe, and I say this all the time on Twitter and like in person, that the best Magic article ever written is The Dark Art of Dredge Fu by Richard Feldman. It is like a primer on how to play Dredge before Faithless Looting was printed, and so like LED wasn't in the deck. It was just like a totally different deck in Legacy. But it's just like 6,000 words about how to play Fearless Magic. And it's like, it's got stories, it's got really good Magic theory, and like, at the time it was regarded pretty well, but like most people don't know about it now because no one cares about Magic writing. I got to hang out with JD.
Read a 20,000 word article.
I mean, it's better than basically every Magic video released in the last decade. That's not true. There's some very good people making content in the Magic sphere, but like none of it's strategy. I got to hang out with JD and Clem Parents this weekend, and I think if you go back and read through all of her articles, if they're still hosted anywhere, you'll come out of that being like 4 times better as a Magic player if you're interested in competitive play. Like she dug into some really big theory, and that's all just lost to time because all the dipshits care about is what's the hot new commander tech. Sorry, Jason.
It's lost to time.
I don't listen when you talk, so don't worry about
it. That makes sense.
I think this brings us around to Huey announcing standard 3-year rotation instead of 2. The Innistrad sets are going to be around for another year, although I'm fairly certain we're going to see Fable the Mirror Breaker get banned 65% of the meta. Just truly absurd Magic card.
I heard a story from a Wizards employee that Fable was a skull clamp in this set, design-wise.
In that it got changed late?
And that it changed late and they tried to nerf it, but it made it better.
Yeah.
Did we get any more detail on what they tried to... Sure. I mean, that's generally the explanation for most cards. I think a lot of people complain about Shieldred. It's like $70 or whatever, $60-$70, and it seems right. But Shieldred's just a finisher. It's just the whole deck, and Shieldred's the thing that wins the game once all their other cards of value to you out. It's Fable that just ties everything together in every deck that plays it, because it's mana, it's card looting, right? Card selection, and then it's a game-winning threat, more or less, in itself if you get to do any shenanigans with it after it transforms, right? So I think we'll see it get banned, and then things are probably going to open up. I don't know. But I think that, the other cards that were dominant, Shieldred and Invoke Despair, are really just It's just that's how people are going over the top in Fable Mirrors. That's what it comes down to, because that's the only card that really gets close to answering Fable.
Invoke Despair is a lot harder to play 4 copies in your deck when you don't have the best card in your deck also being draw 2, discard 2.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, you have to play cards Liliana of the Veil, which is much worse than Fable, if you want to play a card like Invoke Despair as a 4 of.
Isn't that weird to say, given that Liliana was at one point considered like possibly even better than Jace in Eternal formats as like the best Planeswalker in Magic? It was up there. It was up there.
Was Nathan Stoyer alive when Liliana of the Veil originally got printed? Like, does
Nathan
that card predate him?
Nathan Stoyer has won 2 events. He's won a Pro Tour, and he's won Worlds, and he hasn't been able to drink at a bar to celebrate either of those victories.
That is true.
Just brutal. All right, we're going to dig into everyone's favorite game in which I win every week. It's time for Breaking Bulk.
Breaking bulk time. Breaking bulk time. Break.
Oh, yeah, Breaking Bulk. There's so much good stuff.
It's a pick. Breaking bulk. The end.
Do you see how I set that up to flow right into the music so that no one can contradict me? And by the time you try to remember to contradict me, it's been so long ago in the listeners' minds that they don't actually remember, and I get away with it every time. So,
Corbin is calling our listeners MTG goldfishes because he thinks they have a 3-second memory.
Whoa.
They
We can't say
for
MTG
that?
Goldfish on this
What is
cast.
that?
We cannot say
Did
that.
they pay for that ad? What are you getting this under the table? We don't know about this.
It's
What's your
hard
favorite
for
spice?
somebody
Is your
who's-
favorite spice saffron?
It's hard for somebody who blocks me on Twitter to send me PayPal money, but
I don't know if it came through. I gave a big dramatic whistle there. All right, it's
It's
time for
not.
breaking.
You know, DJ, if you'd blocked him first, he couldn't like have the satisfaction of being the first blocker. So
That's
like,
Jason's
that's your
strategy.
fault.
We always thought it was about Jason cleaning up his timeline, but he's actually just getting like ahead of people blocking him.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's in Sun Tzu Art of War, like he who strikes first wins or something like that.
Yeah. Never interrupt your enemy
speaking
when
of
he's
which,
making
I'm
a
gonna
mistake.
I'm going to strike first because I'm going to
Okay.
win this game Breaking Bulk. I have a Core Set 2020 Black Uncommon.
Is it the Stitcher's Surveyor?
No.
Supplier.
Suppliers.
That's
That's
M19.
M19, I think, but no.
what I was trying to remember if that was.
20.
So M20 was a zombie set though, right? With Sorin, the 3-mana Sorin.
That's not that. You mean Vampire? Is that?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
No, that's you're
Okay.
late that time. Soren was 21, I think.
Yikes. Okay, screw these.
Give me the name of one legendary creature from.
Screw these.
Yarok?
M20.
Oh, okay. So
I
it's
think
a black
Elemental
uncommon
set.
from that set?
2020. That was like Crucible World set.
Is it a
yeah?
creature?
It is not a
Crucible
creature.
2019.
No, wait, Soren, you were right. This is the Soren set. This is the Field of the Dead set. The Cavaliers,
The Golo
Yarok.
set.
Slivers! Right? Was that Slivers?
None
No,
of these
that
are my
was like-
pick. This card has also never been reprinted.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Not even in a commander deck or a mystery booster.
Can we
This has
ban
never
core
been
sets
reprinted.
just because they're so hard to tell apart from each
It
other?
wasn't so bad doing core sets when we were in the middle of like I could remember core sets 2014 through 2018 when it was 2018. I can't
Yeah,
remember
when
that
I was
shit in
actually playing
2023.
core set cards at FNM.
There
Like,
wasn't
come
a
on.
core set 2018, so that one is really hard to remember. But
Exactly.
this is a limited card. It's not even like good in anything really.
It's not a creature?
No, it's a sorcery.
Is it the ulcerate or whatever?
Is it
No.
return two creatures that share a creature type to your hand?
Very close. It is the card that shares that design space. I'm not going to give you the point, but I will reveal the curtain. Blood
Okay,
for
yeah.
Bones is a
Yeah.
4-mana sorcery.
Love that one. Yeah.
As an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice a creature, return a creature from your graveyard to your battlefield, and then return another creature from your graveyard to your hand. Sells for 40-ish cents on direct, and Card Kingdom will take them off your hands for 20 cents. And it's, I mean, you can kind of just flicker a creature with this.
Yeah, this was one of the first cards in the tradition of course that 2020 being incredibly broken with all those other cards we named, this was sort of the most broken in this design space because you don't have to target the creature you're returning, which means you can sacrifice a creature and return that creature to play. Or, of course, not. It gave you many more options than that type of spell had in the past.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it other than it's a cheap reanimation spell that serves its role, and it's just avoided reprints for long enough that you got to be picking pretty deep to get it because it's like 40 cents, but if you find a suite of them, then grab them out.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I'm going to go next. I have a blue uncommon from Ikoria.
Is it the thing that makes an octopus?
No, it's the coastal piracy variant with cycling.
Reconnaissance mission or ominous seas, I think are our two guesses.
Was that either one of those, Corbin?
It is. It's certainly one of those. It was going to be whichever one you didn't guess, but now
teamwork.
That was that.
This one,
that
Corbin.
was.
You
Remember that bit from 30 Rock where they had the game show where it was just like it was two words that sounded alike. It's like, is it TWO? It's like, nope, it's the other one.
Yeah, I actually had like big quantity of both of these cards because when Amazon like dropped a price on a bunch of the Commander precons from that year, I bought a ton of them for Fierce Guardianships. And I like eventually buy listed off my Ominous Seas and Reconnaissance missions for like 20 cents a piece or something. I had like a bunch of them, so
cool.
Institutional knowledge.
All right, Cass, what institutional knowledge are you using for your Breaking Bulk this week?
You said toot.
Toot.
I have a Strixhaven Red Uncommon.
Stormkiln.
Yeah.
Yeah, card's like $4.
Yeah, wild.
That's cool.
Buck wild.
I thought Strixhaven was a pretty good set.
Me too.
It seemed like everybody sort of like just got a few cards from it, and then they're like, all right, we're ready for the next set. Like, I feel like we didn't get to savor anything.
Strixhaven really felt like
environment.
It felt like the worst of the like too many things going on, and like it fell victim to that, right?
Yeah.
But like, there were tons of cool designs.
Do you think because of what was going on in Magic, or do you think there was too much going on in the set with its 5 new guilds plus a bonus?
I think it was everything at once because they were trying a bunch of new things.
Also,
they're like, let's design these sets at a typical pace, but release them at an atypical pace, and it just that had to play havoc with design and stuff.
Well, the Strixhaven came out. I wanted to look at the year here. April 23, 2021. So not that was a pretty bad pandemic-y time. So there's also that. So like I played a lot of that set online, and I loved it. But I've learned that I may be in the minority.
I think
you know what else is in the minority? People who pick this out of their bulk before they ship it to me. Especially this white uncommon from Born of the Gods.
Sun Bond. Yeah, that's the one.
No.
Drat.
Archetype of Courage?
Yeah. Like, there's not a ton from the set. Sometimes it's not like, stump them, but sometimes it's just like, hey, pull your Archetype of Courage out of bulk.
Pull all your archetypes out of bulk.
All your archetypes, they're all good. The worst one's 50 cents because it has multiple printings, I think. Like, they're all pretty good. Did you guys want to play the MTG Stocks game with archetypes? Yeah, could we do that next week?
I have a much better MTG Stocks game coming up later in the episode.
Born of the Gods was a very bad set.
Sure was.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was getting at with that. Was that set had Heroic as a theme, right?
I mean, Theros and Born both had Heroic.
And we
the 3 most expensive cards in the set are Xenagos, Fennex, and Mogus.
Born of the Gods was Painseer $20 pre-sale set.
We were desperate for something to be good from that set.
Wow, it's basically Dark Confidant, except better.
Corbin, wait. We're forgetting that Born of the Gods had Chromanticore.
Ooh.
Ooh.
That was the best set review we've ever done.
Ooh, and possibly the last set review we ever did.
Jason
was
Alt
close.
is in my phone as Chromanticore to this day.
That's such a dated reference.
You weren't even on the cast then.
No.
So you got my phone number after that?
Correct.
2014, February 7th, 2014, Born of the Gods released. Almost a decade ago. And for anyone who wasn't listening then, we still did set reviews in the most horrible way possible, which was all of the ways. At least some of the ways. We got better towards the end. And Jason was a big fan of Chromanticore. Maybe JJ will dig out the clip and play it here.
It's not hard to find.
All right. What about Chromanticore?
This is
I actually think
this is the worst. This is my least favorite Magic card.
I'm glad they made this. This is what Mythics were supposed to be.
I think this card will be worth more than $3 someday.
Ironic.
With Ryan.
People find this ironically. This card fucking sucks. I wish they had not printed this.
Why?
Really? I like this card a ton. This does everything I wanted a card to do when I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was
Like,
designed by
no, seriously. This
They
card
did a
is
great
perfect.
designer search on Bring Your Child to Work Day, and this
So
is the
you're-
card they
you're-
came up with.
And Jason, for the health of the game, you want to appeal to casual players. All cards aren't supposed to be for you. You know, they got to be for other people that they enjoy and brings them.
Every card I've liked is for casual players. Like, this isn't for casual players. This is for people with head trauma.
Wow. Jeez. Oh, there's new.
This art should be in crayon. Like, this is an unglued card. This is a
Oh.
fucking
Oh my
unglued
God.
card.
What is wrong
Jason, this card is awesome. You're not allowed to drink on the podcast anymore.
with Jason?
You are,
Unfiltered.
you are a small child, Donnie.
You hate everything.
If I were a small child, I'd like this card.
I like this card more than now that Jason hates it.
Oh my God.
They
This
don't
is
respect our intelligence by
Shut
playing
up.
this card. It's an insult. It's an actual insult.
Okay.
That's all I'll say.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's our last chance of ever us getting a spoiler for Brainstorm Brewery.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if they gave us this?
Oh.
This
Oh.
had been our spoiler, and you
That's
three
what
would have had
they're
to
That's what they're gonna do.
like just grit your teeth and be like, "Oh, we got a spoiler. Oh, it's Chromanticore. Let's read it to our listeners." And I would have been like,
Nice job, JJ. Thanks for doing that.
Shout out to JJ. Unsung hero.
I hope
We
you
all, we
left
all
that
have a
in.
newfound respect for JJ. Some could even say found respect for JJ.
The amount of respect I had for JJ doubled.
Coupled. Well, here's the thing about 2 times 0.
I respected him -1, and now
Corbin-
it's -2.
Corbin doesn't respect or like the help.
I believe the term card monkey has been thrown around in the past.
It's
If
true.
there's one thing I want you to get canceled for, it's that.
Come on. Moving on. You all were mean to me, so now we're going to talk about standard. William Huey Jensen, Magic Hall of Famer. I don't remember his official title. He's involved with Organized Play Now at Wizards. Has announced 3-year standard instead of 2 years. Also announced that they think standard right now is too much of a mid-range grind fest where you just slam 3 color piles of Fable decks into each other. And that's basically what happens. Once they got rid of blocks, they lost the sort of natural ability to give us, I don't want to say theme decks per se, but like, hey, we were talking about Born of the Gods. Heroic was a deck in standard because there were 2 to 3 sets of heroic cards for different power levels that gave them options, blah, blah, blah. Now, where you get one set of mechanic and then on, Celestia Toxic's a perfect example. That deck came out. It had basically a 2, 3, 4 week run, maybe in standard, where it was doing stuff. People kind of figured it out. But here's the problem. It's never going to get any new cards because they're not going to do that anymore. Whereas in the past, it would have got 2 different sets. So that's where things stand. So he announced that they want combo in standard, they want control in standard, they want aggro in standard, not just mid-range grind fests. And crucially, they will be doing in-store programs to promote standard play, which means prizes, to think game day type things with promos that matter, things to actually push people to play Standard. I don't want to get too excited, but it does kind of seem like it may be a point where Wizards feels like they are saturating where they're at with Commander and looking to revitalize other parts of their business.
I am very curious. So I don't play Standard, for anybody who's new to listening to the podcast. I just do Magic Finance. I just buy and sell cards for a living. And the last time I played Standard was 2014 or 2013, but that Born of the Gods era kind of thing. I am curious as to how they think this won't cannibalize Arena. Because they've gone so hard. They've put all their standard-ish chips into Arena over the past 5 or 6 years. And the cleanest way to backpedal on that, at least in the 5 seconds I've spent brainstorming this, would be to go the Pokemon TCG model and just say, like, hey, put your codes on your booster packs, get your standard packs on Arena, but buy the packs and get the physical cards in Standard, and then double whammy it. Just you
Maybe
get your
they
standard
will.
deck on Arena, and then you get your standard deck in paper, and then you do the thing, and then you still take advantage of the rotation system and all these other things, but you are supporting both infrastructures at once instead of trying to get people to hot potato.
Yeah, that would be the perfect solution. I don't know if
I
they'll
mean,
do that.
I'm questioning whether it's the perfect solution because it seems so easy, right? It's like if it must be this easy, there must be a problem with it. Why haven't they done it?
WotC will probably never do it because they have to give up actual equity to do that. Like, are they increasing the price of booster packs to include a code? Right? Like, if you're spending, if you're buying a $4 booster pack and you also get a code, that's money you're not spending on Arena. And WotC shareholders will never have that.
Well, maybe they bury it. They use that to lead a price increase that was already coming. Maybe the math. I don't know. Maybe now that Arena is not the thing or whatever. It's and I should note that Alchemy is still going to be on a 2-year rotation, making it just wholly different from Standard.
So how did Pokemon get that into the system? Is that just always been there, so will always be there, or is that...
So Pokemon TCG Online launched with Black and White, I believe, and Black and White booster packs from day one had code cards in them, I'm almost certain. They added Heart Gold Soul Silver sets to Pokemon TCG Online because it was in Standard at the time, and they just had it so you could like spend your online currency, to buy packs of Heart Gold Soul Silver. And also, you could trade for cards from Heart Gold Soul Silver that people open. Because there was trading in client on TCGO. TCG Live does not have trading anymore, but it has a pretty clean economy. Yeah, they had it from day one. Because Pokemon understands that Pokemon is a lifestyle brand, and you want to incentivize people to spend as much of their life talking about, thinking about, and playing Pokemon as possible. And the best way to encourage that is by cross-platform promotion.
And it seems to me that getting one pack on Arena, which doesn't exactly have a famously generous economy, isn't necessarily a money loss, because how many people are going to buy those packs on Arena? I mean,
Right.
How many people are you going to get onto Arena who were not before, given that so much of your player base doesn't play Arena right now? And I believe that Arena and Tabletop are managed separately, so at some level.
And you could theoretically do it as a way to re-incentivize different styles of booster packs, which is something they've really been very big on. You could say, hey, collector boosters don't get these Arena codes because collectors don't care about Arena, but if you want to re-incentivize draft booster boxes, you have an Arena player coming into your store to buy a physical booster box. Just for codes. And then they sell the cards back or whatever. It doesn't matter, but like...
Yeah, I mean, they could do it as a box topper if they want to dip their toes into it. That's a way of doing it, right?
No, I just mean like you get a code with every pack, and then an Arena player walks out of your store with 36 codes.
Yeah, I'm just
people do that with
thinking it through.
Pokemon.
Like, there's just lots of ways they can dip their toes into it if they don't feel comfortable financially or whatever, just giving away that much. So I don't know. We'll see. I hope this makes 60-card Magic matter again to people. There's a lot that was really great about that era of Magic. The Pro Tour is back and is very exciting, and people seemed largely happy overall in Minneapolis with the events.
How much of that do you think was the Pro Tour?
How
much do you think was the fact that the command zone was open? Like, I think those are two separate things, but like The pro
Yeah, I'm
players
not.
seem
Listen,
happy.
listen. I'm not saying the Pro Tour is responsible. I'm saying that we had like there was literal a divide in the middle, right? We had very good experiences on the Pro Tour side. We also heard good things from the non-Pro Tour side. It seemed like Minneapolis as a whole was sort of a encouraging step forward for the future of these events. That was the feedback I've received.
I think a lot of institutional knowledge was lost over COVID when people got different jobs, and they're just starting to get it back. So like it's actually a really positive sign that like even bad events were better than the one before. So like
I had a
people
lot of people ask me how my weekend is going, and my default response was worse than Philly, or better than Philly, worse than Vegas.
Sure.
My default response was better than Philly, worse than Vegas.
Really? Better than Philly, worse than Vegas? And why was Vegas better? Fewer vendors, or?
Yeah, do you mean as a vendor, or what's your context for that?
As a vendor, sure.
Yeah.
A number of amount of business and busyness that the hall felt like. I think cast had crowded, which is certainly correct. I mean, if you're claustrophobic, Vegas would not have been your event. But like that's from my perspective and from the perspective of somebody that wanted to do business at the event. Better than Philly, worse than Vegas.
Well, there were like side rooms and stuff like that. Vegas, it felt like you were in that, or like your only other option was to go outside.
Correct.
Yep. Vegas was one room.
Yeah.
And they will iterate on that for the Vegas later this year.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, I don't know, obviously, right? But given where the event was in Vegas last time, I don't know. I just assumed that the usual things were not available.
Well, we talked about this. We talked about this in the post-Vegas cast where we heard from Reed Pop. We had 3 weeks and a hot glue gun to make this event.
Oh, and plus October, it's like a colder part of the year, so like it's more expensive. If you want to book a convention in Vegas, do it in July when it's hot as balls and nobody wants to be there.
Wasn't there also like an EDM? Or no, it was When We Were Young was in town, like the punk show. Or
yes,
whatever.
You're right. And then they got or it was the weekend before or something.
No, it was the weekend of.
It's Vegas. It's always the weekend of something.
Yeah. One of my buddies' hotel rooms, like the cops had to come in to make sure that they weren't gonna like. They had a really good view to the main stage from their hotel room that would have been a great sniper's nest. They had to have like the cops come in and check for guns and stuff before the show started. It was crazy.
All right, let's move on from that in that case and talk about a secret lair commander deck that is going to be sent out a week or so after you order it. Is that what I understand? DJ, do you have some knowledge of this?
Did you say Cass? Did you say shipping starts tomorrow?
On the Secret Lair website, it says shipping starts on May 10th.
There you
go.
Okay,
I didn't even know about this. So this is a product in the same vein as the Heads I Win, Tails You Lose, worst named product ever deck.
Heads I win $80, tails you lose $80.
This is called Cute to Brute, and it is a double-faced card themed deck. So there are a lot of flip cards in this deck. And we've talked a lot on this cast about how flip cards can be good places to put your money if you think the card will go up because of how they dodge reprints and how Wizards printing works, where they can only print double-faced cards on double-faced sheets. Nico Bolas the Ravager is kind of famous for being the only double-faced card in Origins, and so it had its own sheet, and there's a whole lot of other weirdness with that card. This is a product that just floods a lot of flip cards into the market. Essica, God of the Trees, the default commander, if you want to put it, and just like the coin flip deck, there's a lot of cards with alternate art done by Secret Lair artists, and there's a lot of value in the deck. If you're just looking to buy a deck and get a bunch of cards that you can put in other stuff, you can cannibalize this if you want. According to roughly TC, it's around like $300, a little under $300 TCG if you were to just buy every card in the deck right now. And I mean, the deck was selling on the Secret Lair website for $150, so they limited it to 5 per person, so you can't go out and just buy 1 million of them. The cap for the coin flip deck was 30, and I think this is a very, very good product, assuming that it, like Cass says, ships tomorrow. I bought it not knowing when it would ship. I was like, it'll be a few months, whatever.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it'll ship exactly when they said. We all remember that everybody that bought Heads I Win, Tails You Lose got it the next day.
They're probably real serious about this shipping on time because of that, right? Like, they're like, we can't f this up, guys. We can't f this up.
And we'll think it through. Then, also, it's not like, did it sell out? Was that a thing? Or so
The coin flip deck did sell out because there was a limited amount of them.
Because they were on a boat in the Suez Canal.
Was this one a limited
twice?
It's the Secret Lair. It's announced as limited edition, but you can still buy them a few days after the event or after the thing went live. So if you are interested in a remotely small number of cards from this product, I think it is a good buy. You definitely still have time to buy it. And my one complaint with this product is they are doing the reprints in the same fashion as the coin flip deck, which is that the cards will have the mystery booster symbol in the bottom left, and they will have some set symbol from some other product the card was in. It might not be the most recent printing. It'll just be whatever Gavin Verhey woke up and felt like. So that makes these cards inherently very hard to sort by hand. It makes them very, very difficult to pull, and you can have high error rates when pulling orders. I do not understand why Wizards is making that happen instead of putting forth the effort and diligence to give them a uniquely identifying set symbol.
Maybe they're worried about running out of set symbols, DJ. They put out a lot of product.
I mean, they also did this with the last one, and like, precedent's been set. They're gonna ride or die.
Yeah, kind of rough.
Precedent's been set is an argument I don't know if you can make for WotC, considering their track record.
All right, before we get out of here this week, it's time for Pick of the Week.
Pick of the week, pick of the week, pick of the week. Time for the pick of the week.
A lot of weeks there. All right, I'm going to go first. I can barely pronounce this card's name, but it's a fancy one from Phyrexia. All will be run. Zopindrel, Hunger Dominus. This is the green Phyrexian core, sacrifice other things and get indestructible counters. This one's stats are 4/6, 7 mana, mythic, reach at the beginning of each combat. Double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn. You can sacrifice 2 other creatures, put an indestructible counter on it for 2 Phyrexian green. So, little card out of Innistrad Midnight Hunt that doubles the power and toughness of your creatures each combat is worth a lot of money, and this is that stapled to a body. It's $6 right now. It has climbed up from 5 to 6 over the past month. I think that Zopindrel is likely to climb on to $10. This card's pretty cool.
I hate the names of all of those creatures.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Out there. Yeah. I have a pick that I felt very, very strongly about in 2015, and I feel strongly about it again. That is Spawn Sire of Ulamog. I once wrote like 5,000 words about this card back when I was an article writer of sorts, and there is a Eldrazi Commander Precon coming out later this year. I think there's a lot of room to reprint a lot of those Eldrazi in that deck, and I think this can avoid that because it has the text "Cast Eldrazi you own from outside the game" on it, and I am leaning towards them not putting that text in a precon. And this is a card from just Rise of the Eldrazi with no dual decks, no reprints, no nothing. It is just a $7 card from Rise of the Eldrazi, and if it's not in the deck, this is a $20 something card, assuming
I think you're right.
Dodges.
Yeah.
It could get Secret Lair. There's so many places to put it. But if you are hankering for some Eldrazi stuff, I think that is a safe bet. You'll be happier if you buy this for 6 and it goes to 20 than you will be sad if you buy it for 6 and it goes to 3.
I think it's a good one, DJ.
My pick of the week is sort of saying it's one card is sort of misrepresenting it. It's just sort of like an ethos around picks of the week. I was trying to purchase a copy of Pyrokinesis in foil for my CEDH deck, and that card has 1 foil printing, Eternal Masters. There was 1 copy on TCG Player for $6, and I bought it, and the next cheapest copy was like $30. There's no buy list backing per se for it. There's like some buy lists that are questionable that are offering $10 on a card like that. But we're in a world where cards without reprints get really expensive really fast. And cards without foil reprints, other than one printing, are ripe for that sort of, no listings, people just kind of get to name their price, someone buys the new price, and the prices get high. So, things like Eternal Masters, Masters 25, are all going to have cards that have first-time foil printings. And those are things I'd look out for, because those kind of cards just like, someone buys 2 copies and the supply's gone.
I had somebody interact with me with this kind of card very recently. It was a Blue Elemental Blast from the Signature Spellbook Jace. It has 2 printings, Masters 25 and Signature Spellbook, but somebody, a local player, said, hey, can you find me a copy of Signature Spellbook foiled BEB? And I said, yeah, sure, that shouldn't be hard to find. And they said, well, I can't buy one on TCG, Card Kingdom, Star City, or eBay. And I said, I'm making a card market order from Europe. I can find it over there, and it'll take about a month to get to you. And they said, that's fine. But that's just, some cards just are like that.
One in particular, I believe Winter Orb still only has 1 foil printing in Eternal Masters, and Eternal Masters was like a decade ago.
I'm old.
And if foil Winter Orb is the kind of card that could be $100. It might already be. I didn't actually look, but be wary of like one-time foil printings. Basically, is my pick of the week. But Pyrokinesis is the card that I noticed it with.
All right, fair enough. All right, Jason, what are you looking at this week?
I'm looking at the same thing every week. Ever since they announced that slivers were back, I'm looking at slivers, and a lot of the obvious stuff popped already, but you can get a foil mana weft sliver for the closest to its non-foil price you've been able to do it in, probably 2 years. I don't normally like foils, but on stuff like Mana Weft Sliver, where like it was before the foils got all curly. I kind of like the stuff where the foil prices are converging with the non-foil, because they were up on an initial slivers hype, and then they slowly trended down. So we're gonna see a second spike, because like, who's left with those copies? It's dealers, right? So if the dealers have all the supply, when it gets popular again, TCG players going to sell out instantly, and then everybody's got the copies to relist at a higher price. So when stock is concentrated, like on a card that already popped like this, I tend to give those more weight, because I think they're more likely to pop harder. So, this peaked at like $8, and currently you can get the foils for like, like 4. So historically, stuff like all the M14 slivers have, historically been more than they are now. So
yeah, there's a secret layer.
It seems like they could go right back up again.
There's a secret layer of this one that's more than that, like basically more than double that. So there's definitely a gap between that and the next foil printing, right?
I also think you can just never underestimate the power of how much people love slivers. It's unreal.
Yep.
So like, this feels like when you said the number 4, I was like, in my head this card was like $15 and it had come down from 30. But when you said $4, I was like, all right.
It has a Mystery Booster retail edition, which is the other foil, which is like $2. So that's.
But that card looks ugly as sin. So like, who cares?
I think it's also a fine buy. Just buy the Mystery Booster.
Okay, tell me how this affects the price. I googled this card. The TCG player thumbnail is the wrong card. It's an artifact of some kind. I can't see what it is, but it's not a Mana Weft Sliver.
I'm gonna say this, and it has to get either cut from the cast or they can censor it. But it's gonna be really funny when I say this. TCG player is a company.
All right, slivers are back. I don't know about you all, but this was a good podcast in my eyes. We all had a good time in Minneapolis. It's kind of like an exciting time for Magic, in my opinion. It's been a lot of. So maybe I'm just feeling good coming off of a good PT. That's reasonable, but it feels like Magic's in a good spot. I think right now most of the constructed formats are good. Commander seems to be a thing that exists. I don't know. Seems like Magic might be in an okay spot.
Magic is not ruined forever. Send tweet.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you as always for listening to Brainstorm Brewery. You can find us at patreon.com/BSB. You can support our sponsors, MTG Stocks and Coalesce Apparel and Design, where you can use the gift code Brainstorm Brewery. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week.